Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the 494 Corridor Commission and Commuter Services, we're thrilled to have you and 250 people join us for this webinar. My name is Melissa Madison, Executive Director of the 494 Corridor Commission and Commuter Services. And I've been with the Commission for the past 20 years, as has my coworker, Kate Meredith. And you'll meet her just a little later in the webinar. We're recording, and everyone who registered will receive a link to the webinar along with the slides in about 10 days. There will be 2 Q&A sessions. The first will be after MnDOT's presentation and the second after Commuter Services. And you may type in your question at any time. To submit your question, please use the Q&A feature. Or you can email your question to Kate if you are watching the webinar later. And we'll show, right here, we're showing Kate's email address. Commuter Services is a program of the 494 Corridor Commission, and we serve the cities of Bloomington, Richfield, Edina, Eden Prairie, and Minnetonka. Many people are surprised to learn that there are more jobs on this section of 494 than in the 2 downtowns combined. In fact, people from 85 out of the state's 87 counties travel on this section of 494 every day to access their job or the airport or the Mall of America. The 494 Corridor Commission formed itself to work jointly on traffic congestion and cut through traffic that spills onto city streets. We have been working with our legislators and MnDOT for a very long time to bring this project to fruition. Before I hand things over to Tim Klein from MnDOT, I would like to introduce our second speaker, Kate Meredith. And that way, after Tim's presentation and audience questions, Kate can jump right in with strategies to help employers and commuters. In her role as Vice President of Commuter Services, Kate oversees our employer outreach, sustainable commute programs, and our campaigns. She graduated from the University of Minnesota with a bachelor's degree in marketing and women's studies. And then I'll introduce Tim Klein. Tim is one of MnDOT's construction managers overseeing the 494 project. Tim graduated from the University of Minnesota with a bachelor and master's in civil engineering, and he has worked with MnDOT since 2005. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Tim.
All right. Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you for the invitation, and thanks to everyone who's attending for your interest in participation today. So I'm going to talk about the 494 project, in particular, the large design build project that's going on in Bloomington and Richfield here. I'll start with a little history lesson, just kind of the big picture of the corridor's vision in general. Then I'll dive into this particular project that's underway, talk about timelines, traffic impacts, how to get through detour routes. I'll talk about just the specific improvements and some elements of the project. And then right at the end, I'll talk about a few other projects that we have nearby, which will also affect commuters. And then at the end, as we talked about, Kate's going to share some resources for you folks. So the 494 corridor has been studied at length going back over 20 years. So we started back in 2001, publishing kind of the first report of what the corridor should look like. There's been other studies published in 2009 and 2014, where we dove down into more detail. And then recently in 2017, reports were looking at both the Highway 62 and the I-494 corridors for congestion relief. And 494 was identified as the corridor to get the next round of improvements. So that brings us to where we are today. This project is led by MnDOT, Minnesota Department of Transportation, but we certainly can't do this alone. So we have a lot of partners who have helped us all along the process. Cities of Richfield and Bloomington in particular, Hennepin County, Metro Transit, Met Council, the airport is involved, and our friendly feds, Federal Highway Administration. And we have a whole bunch of stakeholders as well, of which the Corridor Commission is a part of that. So going back, when you take a step back, big picture, what is the problem with the 494 corridor? What are we really trying to solve? What's the main purpose for us being out here in the first place? We ask this amongst ourselves at MnDOT, amongst our partners, and the general public through open houses and surveys and things like that. And you can see that the graph shows, the two overarching concerns are mobility, just moving people and traffic through the 494 corridor, and safety, doing so in a safe manner, reducing crashes. So mobility and safety are the two biggest drivers of just improvements in general. And then also look at pavement and bridge conditions come in after that. We built the interstate system 60 years ago, so the roads and bridges are getting worn out, and they just need some tender loving care to get back into a healthy condition. So that's another big driver of improvements here. And then we also have stormwater, drainage concerns, bike and pedestrian concerns. So lots of needs along the corridor. When we put all those needs together, we also, evaluated it through the lens of these different criteria, constructability, how do we build it? We're not just, big bad MnDOT coming in and blowing through a community. We want to involve the community in making choices and making decisions on how things are built. We have equity issues and things to consider, and we have to have the money, of course, to build whatever improvements we're talking about. So our recent efforts have led to what we're calling the I-494 Airport to Highway 169 full vision. And that's really, what is this corridor going to look like, when we're done here doing our improvements and doing the various projects? What is the full vision going to look like? Well, we envision an easy pass system all the way from Highway 169 on the west end to the airport. That easy pass system, you've probably seen it around town on 35W, 35E in various areas. That easy pass system is a thing where if you're a high occupancy vehicle or 2 or more people in the vehicle, you can use that lane for free. If you're a single occupant vehicle, you can drive for a fee, and the fee changes based on time of day and kind of congestion levels along the stretch of freeway that you're on. So that's one of the big elements, easy pass from 169 over to the airport. There's some improvements we need to do at the 35W interchange with 494 for freight traffic and just commuters and people in general. And then access changes on the eastern edge between 35W and 77, so at Nicollet, Portland, and 12th Avenues. I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute here. As you can imagine, that's a long stretch. It's a lot of work, and you add everything together that we identified these various project elements to encompass everything, and that probably costs upwards of 800 million to approaching $1 billion, and it's 8 to 10 years or so of a project. So we're not going to bite all of that off in one piece. So we're parsing that out into individual projects where we're combining, various elements. So I'll pause here and just mention that I'm going to talk, the rest of the presentation is about this first project. We are currently pursuing other avenues of funding for in the future once this project is complete. How do we continue on with the rest of the vision? So we don't have those aspects funded yet, but we are actively pursuing and identifying different funding sources and different ways to deliver the ultimate vision that we're looking at. So get down to this particular project that's underway right now. What are we building? We're with this project, it's from East Bush Lake Road on the west end, just west of Highway 100, over to 12th Avenue, or just east of 12th Avenue. So we're going to construct easy pass lanes on 494, and that comes with basically a full reconstruct of the entire 494 pavement section between East Bush Lake Road and 35W. So that easy pass lane goes on the inside. So we need to, in order to accommodate that, we basically need to widen the freeway to the outside to make room for that easy pass lane. Along with that comes lots of improvements to the frontage roads. As we widen the freeway, then we get into the frontage roads as well. So we will reconstruct the 35W and 494 interchange to a turbine design. Basically, right now it's a cloverleaf interchange, right? You have loops in all 4 quadrants as well as diagonal ramps. We're taking out the loop that takes northbound 35W traffic to westbound 494, and that becomes a flyover bridge, or this turbine design bridge. That's able to accommodate a lot more traffic that we see making that movement. On the east side, I mentioned there's access to and from 494 from Nicollet, Portland, and 12th Avenue. You've got ramps coming and going at all 3 intersections. That causes a lot of congestion, safety concerns. So we are consolidating all of that to make a full access interchange at Portland Avenue and remove the ramps at Nicollet and 12th Avenue. And then one other signature part of this project is a new pedestrian bridge at Chicago Avenue to get people back and forth crossing 494 from one side to the other. And so with this particular project, we've had our bid letting back in January. We had 3 teams bid on the project, and this was design build, so a little bit different in the mechanics of how we award the contract, but there was both a technical proposal and a price to evaluate. And you can see here that CS McCrossan was the successful best value bidder at a cost of a little over $377 million. So a couple of dollars to build this job here. But since that time in January, we've made some progress in the contract process there. In March, we awarded and executed the contract with all the signatures and things. Late April, we gave McCrossan notice to proceed 1. So, MnDOT, we're a government agency. There's forms to fill out and paperwork to do. So they had to fill out a certain amount of forms and do some submittals to get notice to proceed 1. That basically allowed the contractor to start doing temporary construction, which consists of crossovers in the median and widening in order to accommodate future traffic shifts in future stages so they can build the work. Just last week, we were able to pass another milestone and get notice to proceed 2. And that means that McCrossan is now able to go full speed ahead and start building permanent pavement and bridge and things like that. This is a 4-year project, so we're starting this year in 2023, and we aim to be complete with the project in the fall of 2026. So buckle up. It's going to be a little bit of a long ride, but we'll get there. So just a quick overview, high level view of the schedule and the major elements that we're building each year. Like I said, this year we're just getting underway. You've seen the contractor out building temporary median crossovers and widening on both 35W and 494. And again, that's to accommodate future traffic shifts in subsequent stages where we can start building permanent pavement. So we will also start rebuilding eastbound 494 between East Bush Lake Road and Highway 100. And then we'll do the two north ramps to and from 35W and westbound 494. So that work will be going on any day now. We'll kick into gear and get that going through the rest of this construction season. Next year, 24 and 25 are going to be the major traffic impacts. So next year we will switch to westbound 494, reconstructing that between Highway 100 and East Bush Lake Road, so that the end of next construction season will essentially be done from Highway 100 to the west, effectively shortening the work zone and the impacts on traffic. We're also going to reconstruct eastbound 494 between Highway 100 and 35W, and then build the pedestrian bridge at Chicago Avenue. In 2025, we'll flip and build the westbound 494 from Highway 100 to 35W, and then also finish the work within the 35W 494 interchange and construct the bridge and the interchange at Portland Avenue. And then in 2026, essentially all of the mainline pavement reconstruction will be done by then, but we'll still be doing some cleanup work in the center median barrier, maybe putting up the electronics and the signs for the Easy Pass system, and reconstructing the Nicollet Avenue and 12th Avenue bridges at that time. Okay, so current construction impacts, what's been going on out there right now. We started the first act of the project was to restripe a third lane or an aux lane on westbound Highway 62 from Valley View Road to Highway 100. That happened in May. We've deployed an intelligent work zone system throughout the 494 corridor, but actually around the entire metro area that has travel information signing. We've recently put up, you may have seen trailers that have work zone speed limits that show, work zone speed limit 55, and then it flashes your speed. And we also have like travel time dynamic message signs out further along the network, like up in Maple Grove or out in Woodbury that say, for example, time to the airport on 494, it's 15 minutes, on Highway 62, it's 12 minutes, things like that. Just tools around the system to help travelers make informed choices about where they need to be. And then we've also got some short-term impacts on both MnDOT highways and local roads for various design elements and things. Any day now, like I said, we have started the permanent work near Highway 100, and this next weekend we will begin work in the 35W interchange. Utility relocations will be a big part of the work. In coming years, we have over 20 different public and private utility owners in the corridor, anything from storm sewer, sanitary sewer, gas, electric, telecommunications. There's a lot of it. that's kind of in the way of the infrastructure that we're building. So we need to move some of those utilities out of the way. And then over the winter here, we'll start building some structures, things that are offline that don't impact traffic. Just there's not going to be much work on the local road system this year, just a little stretch just east of 35W and west of Lyndale Avenue. So on the north side, there's Girard Avenue, frontage road that goes to a shopping mall. There on the north side, we need to reconstruct Girard Avenue and the infrastructure in that area. And then on the south side, we'll be closing Clover Drive, which is a local frontage road, and building a couple retaining walls that will ultimately hold some stormwater ponds in that area. So I like seeing, I'm a construction guy, I like seeing backhoes and bulldozers and stuff. Maybe not everybody enjoys seeing that because it means it slows down your commute, but we have been out for about the last month and a half or so, doing dirt work, doing some temporary paving, just to prepare for future stages of the work. So that's the fun part. Unfortunately, to build a project like this, we need to close roads and ramps and provide detours so that we can, we're still going to maintain 3 lanes of traffic on both directions of 494 during the construction, during the day. But there's times where certain movements will be closed off. So in general, we'll use Highway 100, Highway 77, Highway 62. Just on a high level, those are detour routes when certain movements between 494 and 35W are closed. And then even out to Highway 212 and up to 62 for some of the movements. So I apologize, these slides might be a little busy, but these actually show all of the signs that you would see as a traveler moving through. So for example, this next weekend, Sunday night, we're going to close the ramp from southbound 35W to westbound 494. That will close for the remainder of this construction season until mid-November. So to keep traffic to be able to make that movement, we'll catch people up at 35W and 62, send them west on 62, south on 100, and then meet back up with westbound 494. That's for the more regional detour for those people who live or work in Richfield and might get on from 66th or kind of sneak through the signs on 62. Then we can have people drive the loops. So if you remember Chevy Chase on European Vacation from a few years back, I'm dating myself, but you can get dizzy driving the loops between southbound to eastbound to northbound to westbound in order to complete that movement. We will eventually later this fall be closing the on-ramp from Lyndale Avenue to westbound 494. So for local, basically for local road closures, we'll detour them traffic to local roads. So that would be down Lyndale to American Boulevard, up Penn Avenue, and then west on 494. We'll also have times, weekends or overnights where the westbound 494 to northbound 35W ramp is closed. And there again, we'll send people through the 3 loops at the interchange to complete that movement. And sometimes I'm not going to go through each of these detours in great detail. This particular loop may be in future years, but sometimes we'll send people west all the way to Highway 100 and basically make a U-turn at Highway 100 to come back east to go south on 35W. we'll do things like that. We will have the weekend of August 4th to the 7th, we will have a full weekend closure of 35W in the project area. So in that case, we will send traffic east on 494, north on 77, then back west on 62 to continue north on 35. Southbound, we will, in general, send traffic west on Highway 62 to Highway 100, back east on 494 to south 35W. At the same time, that weekend of August 4th, we are going to join with the 35 project to the south. I'll touch on that at the end of my presentation here in a minute, but we will, in that case, the detour is over to 77, down to 35E and all the way down. So long story short, just follow the signs, plan ahead, and be patient with us, please. We know it's a bit inconvenient to have road closures and detours as we do these project improvements, but in the end, we're trying to make a better, safer freeway system here along the 494 corridor. Here's one of the schematics for using 212 when the ramps at Highway 100 are closed. And then more local ramp closures at Highway 100 and 494. In the Highway 100, East Bush Lake Road area. So I'll slip through these pretty quickly. So I was just talking mostly about the freeway system itself, 494 and 35W, but we do know that just during construction, a lot of traffic is going to naturally divert to the local system in Bloomington and Richfield and Edina in particular. So we're also have a robust program to monitor all the routes along the local road system, and then identify problems, congestion, and delays that may happen on the local system, and then implement some strategies to mitigate those delays. So our contractor is ready to install things like temporary signals, turn lanes, restriping, speed bumps, and things like that. So just know that on the local road system, we do anticipate traffic to be busier there while traffic diverts off the freeway, but we will do our best to mitigate the delays there as well. Okay, so now I'll talk about some of the specific project improvements. What are we buying for our $377 million? One of the major things here is widened and reconstructed pavements and bridges. I mentioned, the interstate was built 60 years ago, so it's time to be replaced. Along with the widening for the easy pass lane, we will reconstruct the main line. So in some stretches, there could be upwards of 5 or 6 lanes in one direction of freeway traffic. Along with widening the freeway, then I touched on we need to work on the frontage road system as well. So a lot of improvements and reconstruction of the local roadway system around the corridor. We need several retaining walls all throughout the corridor to hold those various roads up in tight geometries. And there will be, I believe, 5 noise walls that we'll construct in various locations to reduce the nuisance traffic noise from adjacent properties. We're also building, we call these braid bridges in a couple different locations. Right now, if you're going south on 35W and you merge onto westbound 494, you merge in right about by right in front of the Best Buy property. And there's also traffic that's trying to get over to the right to exit on Penn Avenue. It causes a lot of congestion and safety concerns, crashes. In order to do that, we're basically going to eliminate that merge by the end of this project by separating those two movements. So the 35W, both north and south movements to westbound 94 will come over this long ramp here in front of the Best Buy, and they'll go underneath a bridge and continue to merge onto westbound 494. Meanwhile, the traffic that's exiting at Penn Avenue will go on a ramp and then a bridge that goes up and over this other ramp traffic. So it eliminates that weave, makes traffic flow much more smoothly, much safer. But what that does do is eliminates, if you're coming from 35W, you will no longer be able to merge onto 494 and then immediately exit Penn Avenue. So you'll have to plan ahead and make different movements there. And it's the same thing going eastbound. Again, the entrance ramp from Penn to eastbound 494 goes up and over the exit ramp from eastbound 494 to south 35W. We have a similar braid bridge on 35W and 82nd Street, so just south of 494. And again, traffic will no longer be able to go from northbound. It will no longer be able to go from 82nd Street to northbound 35W to 494. So you'll have to plan ahead and make different movements there. We're making a lot of bicycle and pedestrian upgrades. So just for example, on Portland Avenue, there's a cycle track on both sides of the road up behind the curb and new concrete sidewalks next to each other. On Nicollet Avenue, there's on-street bike lanes along with wide sidewalks on either side of the road. And there's trails and cycle tracks and walkways kind of throughout the entire corridor here. Visual quality is another improvement that we'll make. I'm an engineer, so I think concrete is pretty, but not everybody wants to look at just bare concrete. So we have different patterns that will go on the noise walls and retaining walls and bridges, things like that. We have different landscaping elements, trees and bushes and climbing vines and various things. There's railings that will go on different walls, and this is the pedestrian bridge, just for example. So the railings have certain patterns that look nice, lighting for pedestrian walkways, things like that. So we want to make the experience for all the users a pleasant one as we drive through the corridor. Drainage right now, under really heavy rainfalls, 494 can occasionally flood at times. We don't like it when our interstate floods, so we're making some drainage improvements to, I'm not going to promise that we'll completely eliminate flooding, but we should go a long ways in minimizing the flooding at low points along the corridor. Okay, so that's a really quick run through of kind of the project in general and traffic impacts and the improvements that you'll see. Part of the effort and why you're here today is a robust communications effort to just share the news with the traveling public about what's going on, what MnDOT is doing. And we have two other projects in the vicinity of this 494 design build project. We have a single consultant that's managing all three of those projects. So for the 494, the project that I've just talked about, this consultant, Kimley Horn, has set up both an email and a phone hotline that you can call or email questions, concerns with, and they forward a lot of those come to me, and I can respond, or a lot of them they can just handle and answer, but get your questions answered. We have a project website. So the first website there in the middle of the page is for the particular construction project. I would encourage people to go there, and in the bottom right corner of the page is a link to sign up for project email updates. That's probably your best bet to get detailed information, up to the minute information of what's going on out on the project, and traffic impacts, road closures, things like that. We also have a website for the study, or for the full vision, we'll call it, that kind of goes into a lot more of the background and just what the entire full vision is going to look like. And then finally at the bottom there, we have our 511 website. You can put the app on your phone, and that just has the traveler information to give you kind of up to the minute information on impacts around, within our project and around the whole metro area and the state. Okay, so that was the 494 design build project. I'll touch real briefly on two other projects in the area. The 494 Minnesota River Bridge, so just east of our project, just east of Highway 77. That's going on. The major driver of that project is to repair the bridge deck of the bridge over the Minnesota River. And there are a couple other smaller bridges on both the east and west side of the river that will be repaired along with the project. There's concrete pavement on the west side of the river, right in front of the airport on 494, that will be repaired. And then a regional trail that's on the bridge going, it's on the eastbound 494 bridge. So those are the major improvements with this project. That is a 3-year project. It will dovetail pretty nicely with the design build project just to the west. This year, they've mainly been working on the inside median, building some crossovers, drainage improvements to prepare for future years. Fairly minimal impacts to traffic, some lane shifts, some lane closures, but shouldn't be terribly impactful. Next year in 2024, and then the following year, traffic is going to be reduced to 2 lanes in each direction. So first, next year, we'll shove all 4 lanes of traffic, 2 eastbound and 2 westbound, onto the eastbound bridge across the river, while crews repair the westbound bridge. There will be temporary ramp constructed so that people can still access the airport on Highway 5. There will be short closures of the ramps at 24th Avenue. So with short detours to and from the Mall of America. And then, like I said, repairs on the concrete pavement and the bridges west of the river. In 2025, we'll flip traffic and do the same thing, just the other direction. So again, 2 lanes now on the westbound bridge while crews repair the eastbound bridge. And in 2025, the River Bridge Trail will be closed the entire season. Yeah, again, it's the same email and phone hotline as the design build project. They're 2 494 projects. There is a separate web page for the construction project. Again, I'd encourage people to sign up for email updates on that project website. And of course, you can check 511 for information there as well. And then the third project, I-35W, just south of 494. So this project starts at 82nd Street in Bloomington and goes down to 106th. So this project has been going on this season already. It's basically a mill and overlay or pavement resurfacing project from 82nd down to 106th. We are building auxiliary lanes between 106th and the 98th Street intersections or interchanges in both directions. So there will be an extra lane between those interchanges, both northbound and southbound. And then at each of the interchanges at 106th, 98th, 94th, and 90th Street, there are signal improvements and pedestrian sidewalk, ADA ramp improvements and things like that, along with various drainage improvements. This project has been going on most of the summer, so it's actually just about done. There's 2 more weekend closures coming of southbound 35W. The first one is this coming weekend, and then the following weekend, August 4th through 7th. And this project should be complete by Labor Day. So those impacts are starting to wind down. And again, there's a separate email and a phone hotline to ask and get your questions answered, and a project website where, again, you can sign up for email updates. So with that, I know I covered a lot of ground in 40 minutes or so, but I will pause there, and I see that there's a number of questions.
Hi, Tim. So I have cataloged the questions that have come in, and we'll start with a question from Troy. Will the Easy Pass lane be an additional lane in each direction, or will it take away from the existing lanes?
Good question. It will be an additional lane. We're not taking a general purpose lane and repurposing it. We'll add a lane to accommodate the Easy Pass lane.
Thank you. And Anonymous has asked, long-term, what is the plan for 82nd Street Bridge and ramps?
Okay, good question. That was in, so that's part of the full vision. We are building just a small portion of the 82nd interchange, so just the northeast portion of that interchange. In a future project, which again is not funded yet, but we're working on it, we will replace the 82nd Street Bridge, raise up. It's got to go about 2 feet higher, and we will replace the ramps on all 4 quadrants, or I guess the remaining 3 quadrants there, along with more work on 35W. So that is coming in a future project, and then that gets into signals and sidewalks and pedestrian accommodations and things like that. So we're doing the 82nd Street is going to be in 2 separate phases, you could call it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
A question from Mary. Please explain the turbine bridge design for 494 35W again.
Okay, good question. It's just west of this project is the Highway 169 interchange. And there, if you can picture that, it has these big, long, sweeping flyover bridges. So you can think of it kind of like that. It's very similar to a flyover bridge. It's a little more compact, though. It's a little more circular in shape. And it really just is a way to, a clover leaf is a very low speed ramp design. The turbine, it's a flyover bridge. It goes up and over in a circle, but at more highway speeds, about 45 miles an hour, I think. Just to that northbound to westbound movement is pretty heavy. There's over 20,000 vehicles a day that make that movement. So to be able to do that efficiently, the turbine design will accommodate that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Scott has asked, will traffic remain open in both directions, east and west, throughout construction?
In general, yes, we will we will, in general, always maintain 3 lanes, both eastbound and westbound, during the construction project. Now, that being said, there's overnight lane closures where we'll reduce a lane or two to build certain elements. And then there will be short stretches of time where 494 will be closed, fully closed in one or both directions, for things like reconstructing bridges or just kind of tying in, plugging in the last little bit. So there will be some weekend and overnight full closures, but those are fairly minimal. In general, 494 and 35W will both remain open through the duration of the project.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Harvey has asked, will the same easy pass work on 494, 35W, and 394?
Yes, in general. So 394 is a bit unique in that it's a separate dedicated lane that's reversible. That's the only place in the metro that we have, or I believe plan to build that specific type of reversible easy pass lane. But we have easy pass now on 35W from, I believe, from the river all the way up into downtown. So it will look very much like that, where
Thank
it's
you.
just, the easy pass lane in each direction.
Anonymous has asked, will utilities be buried?
Many of the utilities will be buried. Yes. I mean, it's generally more efficient to bury them and get them out of the way. There will still be some overhead power, overhead communication. So it will be a general mix of things, but when we can bury things, when it makes sense, we will.
Thomas has asked, will the eastbound Portland ramp be made longer? Currently, it is difficult to exit without slowing down on the main highway.
Okay. I believe so, yes. Along with the interchange improvements there, I realize it's a fairly short ramp right now. We will, build to our current geometric standards, which should allow for better deceleration and things like that.
Anonymous has asked, what steps will be taken to limit increased traffic on 76th Street to Penn to get around the ramp closure?
Valid question. We know that with any project like this, there are certainly, increased traffic. People find their own routes around the construction zone, and we know that that's going to happen here as well. We do as much as we can to educate the public on where the signed detour routes will be, and to safely and efficiently get them moving through the work zone. And like I mentioned, there are some improvements that we will be doing on the local system just to accommodate that increase in traffic.
It looks like we're only going to have time to get to a couple more of the questions that have been submitted. So we'll take a couple more, but then I'd like to let everybody know that when we email you a link to this recorded webinar and the slides for what we've presented today, we will answer all of the questions that have been submitted that did not get answered in this webinar. So one of the questions that I think many people will want to know the answer to is, will your road closures sync with Google Maps so we can use our phones to plan our route?
I believe the answer is yes. When we input when we put up a lane closure or a ramp closure, all of that information we send into the 511 website application. And I believe that 511 is what syncs with Google or Waze or those different applications. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then another question that I think we've gotten variations of something similar several times. Could you please go over the plans for 12th Avenue again?
Okay. 12th Avenue is, so right now there is access ramps, I believe, to and from the east side of 494. Those ramps will be taken away by the time the project is done, and all of that access will be, you will now exit and enter at Portland instead of 12th. We're reconstructing the 12th Avenue Bridge, making it wider, both longer to accommodate future MinPass in a future project, and then also making it wider to accommodate bicycles and pedestrians across the bridge. And there are those sidewalks and trails continue both north and south of the bridge as well onto the local roadway between 76th and American Boulevard, I believe.
Wonderful, thank you. So let's
Mhm.
turn it over now to Kate Meredith, who will talk about strategies for employers and commuters during this longer construction project.
Great, thank you so much, Melissa and Tim. There's so much great information. So I'm Kate Meredith. I'm Vice President at Commuter Services. I'm now going to share about the free resources and programs for employers and commuters. So I'll start with an overview of strategies and resources we recommend for employers. We encourage companies to let us host a commuter fair where we come on site and set up a table in a common area for employees to receive our free resources, get their commute related questions answered, and sign up for our campaign. We can also provide communications for an electronic commuter fair, or what we call an e-fair. Commuter Services has several try it campaigns where employees can be entered to win prizes for trying an alternative to driving alone just one time. We hold monthly prize drawings as well as special campaigns throughout the year. We are also happy to provide articles for your newsletters, internet posts, blogs, and direct emails that go out to employees. One of the best times to influence commute behavior is when employees begin a new job and start a new commute. We have resources for new hires so they can explore their sustainable options before they get into the drive alone mode. You can stay in the know on construction projects and commute program updates with our employer and commuter newsletters. And we can provide you with displays of materials that include bus and train schedules that serve your work site. Next. So we have several suggestions and resources to encourage biking to work. For employers, these include holding an on-site bicycle safety check, offering a how to bike to work seminar or webinar, providing showers and lockers if possible, providing indoor and covered bike parking, and offering bike repair tools like a tire pump and patch kit like you see in that picture. Commuter Services can help you with offering a free outdoor bike rack to any organization who is willing to promote bike commuting and other sustainable modes to their staff. We are also happy to bring our demonstration bus bike rack to show your employees how to put their bike on transit. For commuters, we offer many resources, including that you can sign up for bike trail updates to stay in the know about trail closures and detours, as well as new bike facilities coming online. You can view our bike commuting webinars, and we have many materials, including maps, a bicycle commuting guide that has tips for biking and traffic, as well as clothing recommendations. So for transit, we have lots of resources for employers and commuters. For employers, we encourage organizations to offer MetroPass. It is the deepest discounted transit pass available, and it's only available to employees at participating companies. The pass offers unlimited rides on all buses and trains, and Commuter Services helps companies enroll and with ongoing promotional assistance. We can also provide personalized transit information with schedules for your work site. Next. For commuters, you can provide a customized transit itinerary with 2 free ride passes, so it shows bus stops and total trip times. The Transit Assistance Program, or TAP, is a great program for lower income residents. We can also provide information about the Text for Safety tool, as well as other safety measures that are being implemented by transit providers. And we help commuters access reloadable transit cards that make paying for fares fast and easy. So our carpool assistance for employers, we can assist employers and commuters with formation of carpools and van pools. We can create maps that show potential for carpooling and van pooling. And we can help facilitate meetings to gather employees by home location so that carpools and van pools can form organically from conversations amongst employees. We also provide preferred parking signs and manage the carpool program for employers. So for carpooling resources for commuters, there is a free and confidential ride matching system, and we have tips for setting up a successful carpool. Advantages to carpooling include being able to use the HOV or the Easy Pass lane, and of course, saving money on gas. And the Metro Van Pool program is a program of the Met Council. It is an ideal mode for commuters who have longer commutes where they are not served by transit service. The Met Council provides half of the subsidy for each van pool. And employers can choose to subsidize, but they don't have to. If they do subsidize, there are tax benefits for doing so. So Metro Van Pool for commuters, again, I mentioned that it is ideal for longer commutes. I want to go back one slide. You need just 4 people to start a van pool. And again, half of the van pool cost each month is paid for by the Met Council. The lease agreement is between the volunteer primary driver and Commute with Enterprise. And the lease includes everything needed to operate the van pool: maintenance, repairs, there's $1 million liability insurance on each van, and 24/7 roadside assistance. It is a flexible program, and we need just 30 days notice to leave or terminate a van pool. And there are tax benefits as well for commuters who choose to pay for their van pool expense. All right, so Commuter Services has a wealth of resources to help teleworkers and managers and companies around telework and hybrid work. And these resources can be accessed anytime at the website tctelework.com. So this just lists the various free telework and hybrid work resources. They include sample telework and hybrid policies. We provide implementation guidance, consulting on best practices, training for managers on how to train and manage remote workers. We have several on-demand webinars. We also have specific resources for topics like mental health and home office safety and ergonomics. And we produce a quarterly newsletter as well. We have many more resources that I haven't mentioned for telework and hybrid work, and they can all be accessed free on our Twin Cities Telework website. And then wanted to also talk about more resources for commuters and employers. There is a free program called Guaranteed Ride Home. It offers peace of mind for commuters who take sustainable trips 3 or more days per week. It is paid for by the Met Council and it's free to the commuter. Commuters sign up ahead of time and they receive up to $100 annually to get home in situations where they have to work late or leave in the middle of the day for a sick child. They can take Uber, Lyft, a taxi or transit, get home when they need to, and then they get reimbursed. And they have up to $100 annual reimbursements. So I mentioned our newsletters. We have 3. The commuter newsletter is monthly. It has regular updates on all the road construction projects, including what we heard from today, as well as transit, bike commuting, and telework news. And you can sign up on our website at 494corridor.org. We have the employer newsletter that is produced quarterly, and it has lots of great information about sustainable commute program updates, road construction, transit improvements, and more. And you sign up by emailing me, Kate at 494corridor.org. And then we have our Twin Cities Telework newsletter. This is quarterly, and we keep up to date on research and trends. And so you're going to get the latest on tips and best practices on telework and hybrid work. Again, for managers, employers, and teleworkers. then the website is tctelwork.com. So that gives you kind of an overview of all the different resources and programs that we have available for organizations and individuals. And I'm very happy to take questions. And I think Melissa is going to look for any questions.
Thanks, Kate. Well, we hope you'll take us up on the free resources that are available to employers and commuters. We have not received any questions for commuter services, but we do have quite a few more questions for MnDOT that we weren't able to get to. So as I mentioned earlier, you will receive a link to this webinar and the slide deck, and we will list all of the questions that we weren't able to get to with the answers. So you'll receive that in about 10 days. And on behalf of Commuter Services, the 494 Quarter Commission and MnDOT, we thank you so much for joining us. And please sign up for the construction updates so that we can keep you informed. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.